We want to say thank you to our sponsors, Watchman Cigars, 1812 Barbecue, Webmerized Website Design, Blue Collar Motorcycle Shop, and Hook, Line, and Heroes. Without you, this episode would not be possible. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast, where it's our take on life, liberty, and the pursuit of gravy, and you, the listener, are getting a degree in common sense. We are broadcasting from the Blue Collar Cycle Studio right here in beautiful, historic Concord, North Carolina. I'm your host, Biggin, and how about you? We've got a great show lined up for you, as always. But before we begin, let me introduce the team. Over to my left, your right on the radio dial is producer Brian.
Hey, guys.
And, of course, across the way sits the pride of Anderson, South Carolina, but most of you probably know him best as the Silver Tongue won 2016's Honorable Mention Vacuum Cleaner Salesman of the Year, the inventor of the Redneck Egg Roll. Give it up on old Mike number one. It's Mojo!
It's so cold outside. Even the Baptists are speaking in tongues.
Oh!
Thank you for tuning in once again. You can find us on Facebook at Southern Fried Philosophy. Southern Fried Philosophy.
Or the other one.
Yeah, that came out wrong. Southern Fried Philosophy. You can find us on our website at southernfriedphilosophy.com. Wherever you listen to your podcast, just go there, hit subscribe, give a like, search for Southern Fried Philosophy. Most importantly, give us a review, a rating. That's how we move up in the old podcast algorithms. You can check us out on our Patreon link at patreon.com/SFP Radio.
The most important thing you could do is give us money. And as you said, you can subscribe and be an SFP insider at southernfriedphilosophy.com. Click on the Patreon link, give us money, and we'll be happy. We want to say shouts out to our listeners from Grand Rapids, Green Bay, Greensboro, Greensville, North Carolina, and Greenville, South Carolina. It's Greenville for both of them.
Yeah, one's spelled different.
They're the exact same.
No,
I'm looking at it.
Trust me.
How are they different?
They're just different. No, that's Tennessee. So Tennessee has a Greenville, but it has an E on the end.
Of green?
It's Greene Ville.
Yeah, no, North and South Carolina look like they're the exact same.
But they're not the same.
But they're not. They're spelled the same.
It's like Beaufort and Beaufort.
So our listeners brought to you by the letter G. G Unit. So I'm going to ask you like I ask you every week, Mojo, I be darn.
Yeah, it's cold.
Cold.
Had to roll a couple rolls of quarters and turned on the heat at the shop.
Okay.
Because I'm too cheap. And
I'm just glad it wasn't for the vibrating bed in the back. That's what I'm thankful for.
Well, we've switched that up now. We're actually going to put a quarter bull ride in there.
Oh, how about you?
Yeah, and a KY Jelly KY Jelly wrestling pit.
Good gracious, what's going on back there?
Yeah. Well, you got to venture out. That's the great thing about free capitalism.
That's not what's going to work. It's grape jelly wrestling pit.
It might be gravy.
Come on with it.
Yeah, just soothe it on down.
There you go.
Yeah, buddy. So I'm good. Just getting ready for the holidays. Hopefully, we'll sell a few bikes here.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that.
Can you again, just in case our listeners don't remember, tell us about Blue Collar Motorcycle?
Yeah, Blue Collar Cycles is a shop we just opened up in Salisbury. Well, it's kind of open. We're halfway there. It's kind of like more like a lingering hobby, than a full-time thing. Just because we're still getting inventory in and trying to get repairs and stuff like that. But yeah, so we got this motorcycle company that we've focused on Harleys and that culture, and hopefully turn it into something decent. Yeah, try to support a couple families, and so. Yeah. Website's bluecollarcycle.com, and I will ship.
You said ship?
Yeah, ship. Or shift. Yeah, ship. No, I will ship.
Okay. All right. So you can buy it in California?
Yeah. We ship to the 48, ship international.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, we'll figure out how to get it on the boat.
How about you? Yeah. Producer Brian, how you been doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I have a little bit of a PSA for our listeners. So,
sure. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, well, I signed up. I registered for LLC like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, congrats.
Yeah, it was great. I've kind of been dragging my feet for like 11 months, but So I registered, paid the state their money, no big deal. Then I got a letter in the mail.
Oh, no.
It's probably Monday, Tuesday, something like that. And it's a real official looking thing.
Ooh.
It says you need to apply for or pay for your certificate of existence. Have you heard about this?
Wow.
Yeah. So
Did you get the letter?
It's kind of like the mortgage, like make sure you got your mortgage secure after you buy a house. They send you like 27 letters, different companies.
Well, the thing with this certificate of existence is a total scam because it's not necessary. And the company that's sending you this isn't affiliated with the state at all. So I figured this out as I had the pen in my hand to write the check.
Did Paula not tell you?
This had nothing to do with them.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. It was like a $75 whatever charge.
Genius, by the way.
So I get this envelope. It looks real good. It says from like the certificate authority or something. I was going to bring it tonight, but I didn't get home today.
Sure.
It looks real official. And I get it. I'm holding it and looking at it and go, okay. So I look up like the email I got from Paula. I was like, I feel like I should have paid all this stuff already, right?
Yeah.
And I literally, I get a check out. I got my pen. Let me look this up.
Yeah.
I'm a research guy. I do my research.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I would know about this $75 charge.
Right.
For top, I'm on the page now. Secretary of State of North Carolina. It's a scam. Like this particular part, there is such thing as a certificate of existence. It's not necessary for what I'm doing, for sure. So this document looks real official, has all these names on it. So then I start looking at the envelope, and the return address is like a UPS store in Raleigh.
Ooh.
It's like not a P.O. box, which is my first like flag. The government thing is going to probably be a P.O. box almost every time.
Yeah.
And it has a forever stamp on it.
Oh, buddy.
Like these itty bitty details.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. I was about to sign that, and just my spider sense was going off or something.
Note to self.
BS-o-meter, you know.
I'm going to send a letter to Brian Childers to buy a star, and you can name it.
Yeah, there you go. Actually, I already have a star. I have a star named after me already.
Do you really? Come on.
I didn't pay for it though.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. My previous employer, it was like everyone got one because he didn't have anything better to do with money.
You're kidding me.
Yeah,
you have a star.
I have a
named
certificate to some. I can't give you the coordinates, but yes, I do have a star named after me. Maybe I'll take a picture of that and
that'd be great.
Show notes.
How about it?
But yeah, so basically these people are looking at public records, finding information, and just trying to just skim a little bit. It's not a big enough number to really, if you're starting a business,
right?
It's not a $75. Okay, whatever.
Sure.
Right? I'll write the check. That's just free money for them. So,
yeah, I mean, because just think if you had 100 people a year that did that's money that you didn't have to actually go out and physically work for.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably just paying for the letterhead, the envelopes, and the mailbox.
Well, it's probably some company. It's probably, you remember the old plates, like you could buy like collectible, like Wizard of Oz plates or Gunsmoke, or it's probably that company that went bankrupt. And they're like, hey, let's, we still got all this printing press stuff, so we're going to create this authentic certificate official. So we got to start trying to scam people.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's Columbia House, and they're still wanting their $19.99 for their
penny or their 99-cent or whatever.
Right,
20 CDs for $1. Is that what it was?
But honestly, like, did you not read the email? Because in the email, Paula, because we just recently got trademarked Southern Fried, and it said, you're going to get a letter asking you for $75. Do not send them $75.
I did not see that. But I can't say I read anything outside of, here's your document, here's your receipt.
There it is. So, I'm still waiting for it because I haven't got it yet.
Well, you haven't paid your $75 yet.
Well, I paid much more than that to get the trademark. Yeah. Guys, I'm at a handle. I've got this flu-like thing that's going on. It's not flu, it's allergies. I can tell by when I squish my face, mucus flushes down my throat, and it's awful. To remedy that, I've brought the Southern Fried Elijah Craig, the old Reverend, with us, so hopefully just bear with me as my voice wants to give out. Also, with Small Batch, the foster kid number 2, because I have never been so tired in my entire life right now. I am exhausted. When is this kid going to fall asleep all through the night? For the love.
Mine was 2. So
2 years old?
To look forward to, yeah.
You think it's bad now?
What?
Just wait till they become a teenager.
No, that's
our guest Gwen Bartley can probably testify that. Once they become a teen and they are a turd, instead of producing just nothing but turds, nothing else, Wait till they become a teenager and they become a turd.
But at least I'll get my 8 hours sleep.
No.
No, you won't. Oh, Lord.
No?
You don't get that back. That doesn't come back.
Oh, God. Don't.
No, you'll never sleep again, ever.
No. I can't spend the rest of my life this tired.
Dude, you will.
By the time you get old enough, or they get old enough for you to maybe have a good night's sleep, your clock will have adjusted to only need like 5 hours of sleep, and you'll be up at 4 a.m. anyway.
How does this not come with a Surgeon General warning that you'll never sleep again?
It's in fine print. It's like on that letterhead that Brian received.
The email. You didn't read the email.
Bear. I didn't read the email.
Yeah.
That should have been brought to my attention yesterday.
Yeah, you'll never sleep again. Because teenagers, you worry about them. Like my kid right now. You know, like last night I found out that she has a 44 in one of her classes. Some stupid
I was
class.
thinking 44 Magnum for a second.
No. That'd be awesome. But no, a 44 in some stupid class she got. I'm like, how do you get a 44? She don't turn her homework in.
Math history or something.
Math history.
I think maybe it's something like the the history of chiropractic medicine or something. I mean, something stupid that they should be learning. But she still has a 44.
Can I say this? I don't know if I'm legally allowed to say it, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's just us anyway. Foster kid number 1, he's got a 53, and he comes to me and says, "That's passing, right? That's a good grade, right?" Hey, buddy, no. I was like, what letter do you think that is? I think that's a solid B. What? What are you learning at school? How do you not know this? 53.
Evidently, they don't have the bell curve there.
No, there's no bell. There's no horn. There's nothing there.
Which point, scale is this? This is college is 90 to 100.
90 to 100.
Is that how they're doing it?
I think they
when
dropped
I was a kid,
it down to 60 now.
It was 93.
60 and above is passing.
It doesn't matter. It's a 53 for crying out loud.
Well, yeah.
No, it's just getting by. Barely trying.
He looked at me.
Double minus or something.
He looked at me and with a grin on his face said, "Nailed it." Wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
It's called repeat.
Right.
That's what you're going to be. Like I told my kid today, I was like, you're going to be repeating the 10th grade.
Enjoy that.
So, yeah. I'm trying to get you out of the house now.
You'll enjoy this when you got to do it again next year.
Exactly.
Appreciate it. All right. So let's go to some wacky news brought to you by 1812 Barbecue. If you need a quality caterer in the Charlotte area, call our friends at 1812 Barbecue. They'll provide you with the greatest pulled pork, brisket, and those amazing sides. Check them out. All right, so here is a story that I wanted to bring up. I mentioned at the beginning of the story, or at the show, that you are the greatest vacuum cleaner salesman in history. There's a story out of Clearfield County, Pennsylvania. Lawrence Township Police responded to a man struggling walking down the highway with a vacuum cleaner on November 7th. Jason Schmoke, 38, was seen walking in the white fog line on the highway in and out of traffic, struggling with a large box containing his Bissell vacuum cleaner. Police identified him. He had a warrant for unpaid fines, and they reported that he was also, and this is a shocker, drinking alcohol while on probation with a no alcohol clause. Charges have been filed. He was reportedly taken to the jail, where he was placed in jail with his vacuum cleaner.
Shoplifting?
You got to keep the vacuum cleaner?
Evidently, that's the question. He evidently got to keep the vacuum cleaner.
Was it his emotional support vacuum cleaner?
Oh, that's a good call.
Was he going to use it to Epstein himself?
Oh, that's also a good call. I figured they'd put him in there so he could use that time putting it together. Because, there's coming all those pieces apart, and whatnot. Yeah. So I just thought that was weird that he's walking around with a vacuum cleaner.
In the box. It's not like he's pushing it down the road on wheels.
Right. He just took the vacuum cleaner in box and decided, hey, this is a good time to go for a stroll, guys.
Look, nothing surprises me anymore. We had a guy in our neighborhood near the shop that had a pet goat, and he walked it around. So after seeing that, I have low standards for...
The goat I could get. I could understand having a goat.
Goats can be useful.
Right.
In a downtown area, yeah.
I mean, You don't know his goat cheese story. You don't know what's
all I know is the goat ended up on a local menu. That's all I know.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, a curried goat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, buddy. Speaking of food.
Still useful.
Alaska University is taking PB&J as payment for parking tickets. Now, I could get behind this idea. In Anchorage, Alaska, anyone with unpaid parking fines at the University of Alaska campus has the option now to reduce or cover the cost of their tickets with peanut butter and jelly. The university would take donations for their annual payment tradition up until November 8th to combat student hunger. University officials say each person could use PB&J payments for 2 citations issued within the past 45 days. Officials say that a 2-ounce jar offers a $10 credit, 3 jars offer a $35 credit, and 5 jars offer a $60 credit. They say any unopened, commercially produced nut butter, almond, cashew butter, peanut butter, or flavored jam, jelly, marmalade, or preserves would be accepted. Is this not a good idea just to combat hunger?
I'm waiting for the helicopter moms with that one kid who has one allergy to one thing that's unusual. It could be like pectin in the jelly.
Okay.
It's
horse hooves?
Something. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's going to be something that's crazy like that.
But is that not a good idea? Instead of like...
No, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, that's great.
Instead of like, you pull somebody over, you get a $200 ticket, whatever. Instead of like paying the $200, you can just donate food to homeless shelter.
So basically it was just peanut butter and jelly, no bread, right?
That's the other question.
Yeah.
But you don't technically have to have bread.
Well, thank God they didn't do the bread because, you're going to have some tree hugger that brings that all nut bread, like Ezekiel's whatever.
The Dave's Miracle Bread?
Yeah, the one that has, the one that's like an average slice of white bread probably weighs like a couple of grams.
Yes.
And then the heavy loaf weighs like weighs about the same weight as a full cast iron pan of cornbread.
My question is, if you bring in the goober, you get 2 tickets.
Oh, that's a good question.
That's probably a half.
I think.
Yeah, it's probably a foul.
I just think that's genius. I think we need to do that throughout all 48 states.
Defund the government
50
with
states.
PB&J,
Yeah.
I'm all about anarchy. I'm all about defunding. I like that idea.
So I thought that was a good idea. How about you? Producer Brian, do you have any upcoming clips you want to talk about on the headline show? Give us any teasers?
Any teasers? I haven't decided if I'm actually going to get one out this week or not. But,
okay.
I've been looking at stuff. Let me pull up my notes real quick. Yeah, actually. Oh, I do have a couple here.
Okay.
So just a quick run. I have the PB&J thing. I think I may have sent that to you. I may read that out loud. Let's see. Just real quick. Voter fraud detected in Bird of the Year poll.
Do what?
There was a Bird of the Year poll down in Australia, and they think that someone was cheating on the votes.
The Aviary Society is pretty serious about
that.
But we'll get into that. A pilot got arrested for being naked in his hotel room.
Okay. Oh, yeah, in front of the window, right?
He was in front of the window on the 10th floor.
How about you?
Yeah.
I do that sometimes.
How can you be arrested in your own room that you're renting? You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can't help it has clear windows.
Yeah, and the story is he got a phone call, whatever situation, got a phone call, was walking around.
Right.
Didn't know he was visible from the airport. You can see the airport from the hotel. But anyway, and then Japan's running out of ninjas. But
well, we can stop that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you want more of that information, check out Producer Brian's Southern Fried Headline Show.
I will make a comment, and you
Please
can cut it out if you want to. I guarantee he wasn't hung like Epstein.
Oh my goodness!
Where's it at? I gotta. Oh, that was the wrong one.
Well, maybe.
There it is.
The 1812 barbecue story started over 20 years ago when Eric and his dad started entering local barbecue competitions for fun. During that time, Eric, a United States Marine, has traveled all over the world picking up flavors and techniques that today is the unique flavor of the award-winning 1812 barbecue. He has honed his craft to bring you fall-off-the-bone pulled pork, mouth-watering ribs, and finely crafted beef brisket. Eric has developed his own amazing dry rub and delicious barbecue sauce. And let's not forget the sides: coleslaw, smoked Gouda mac and cheese, cowboy baked beans, and to top it all off, banana pudding and pecan pie for dessert. Getting hungry yet? Good. Call or email Eric at 1812 Barbecue, and he can make your next catered meal happen. Wedding and graduation parties, family reunions, and other events will be memorable with 1812 Barbecue. Want to try your own hand at smoking meats? Pick up your own 1812 dry rub and start the journey for yourself. Shipping all over the world, connect with Eric on his Facebook page Instagram at 1812barbecue, or call 704-604-5148, or email Eric at eric.line@1812barbecue.com, and he'll be glad to help any way he can. All right.
I do have I want to throw a segment at you real quick.
Let's do it.
We didn't talk about this before, but I have a new segment. It's called This Week in Chicken Sandwiches. It's brought to you by a Blue Collar Motorcycle Shop.
Okay. All right. Let's bring it.
So I drove by Chick-fil-A yesterday. Never seen it. Brand new Chick-fil-A in University.
I heard it's causing backups and stuff.
Well, it might. But here's what I saw. And you guys, we've been talking about the drive-thru a lot. This had, instead of a drive-thru window, had a drive-thru sliding door.
Wow.
So, a dude was walking out of the side of the building and handing people their sandwiches in the car.
What's next? They're going to be opening the door of your car and on a tray?
It's like the grocery store style, slider or something.
That's pretty impressive.
I was just like, whoa. And, of course, he had a T-shirt on because it's hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. But
yeah.
I'm going to give somebody $1 million idea. I just want a little bit of money from it. I have always wanted to have a donut shop that was in an old bank, and then you can just shoot them through the little pipe things right down. Just take them off and go, like little mini donuts.
The pneumatic tube thing.
Yes.
You pay extra to just lay on the floor underneath it with your mouth open?
You could. But I think that would be genius. You could just, ship donuts that quick, go.
Huh. Yeah.
Now, that could work. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
That can make some money.
Let's try it. There's a couple gone under banks around here that we can break into and try it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, those are my favorite things when I was a kid. So.
Oh, yeah. I still am amazed by that. It blows my mind.
And that's one of those technologies that hasn't changed in the last 30 years.
Right.
I mean, that was in the original part of communication for the Empire State Building and Sears Tower, Chrysler Building, things like that, was those tubes for mail.
Yeah. I did see at the CVS, I don't know where it was, but it comes down and it looks like a telephone booth from London. It's red and it has the little windows and stuff.
Time machine or something?
Yeah, Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It comes down and it looks like that, and you can get your prescriptions and whatnot. It has a little clipboard inside of it, and then it goes back up.
One thing Walgreens doesn't have is a sliding glass door where they can walk out and hand you prescriptions like Chick-fil-A.
That's true. Speaking about chicken sandwiches, I was coming home. I was like, what am I going to eat? Popeyes is first, Chick-fil-A second. I drive through. I see Popeyes has 5 cars in the drive-through. I was like, I'm going to keep going. And I saw Chick-fil-A had 20. Dude, Chick-fil-A had me in and out faster than the third car going through.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was fast. And you had, just an update, you had the Popeye sandwich. You said the only thing different between the regular and the spicy is the mayo?
Well,
right?
That's the difference. It's just I haven't had the spicy.
Okay.
What I've read about it.
But
the only difference is that spicy mayonnaise.
I saw that too.
Yeah. See, it would be better if the batter was spicy, I would think.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think that would overcomplicate them because when I went by the other day for a regular chicken sandwich, I was like, I got to try this again because, the first one, I wasn't floored with it, so I had to go back and try it.
Okay.
And I literally thought I was going to get shot just asking for an extra pack of ketchup.
Well, you probably almost did.
Mean,
they a little stressed out.
I saw it in their eyes. I mean, it was, and me asking where the napkins were.
Oh, God forbid.
Yeah, it was kind of a stretch there.
But can we talk just briefly? And I don't want to take over your segment, but what has happened to us as a society that we will go bat crap crazy over a chicken sandwich? Guys, it's a chicken sandwich.
It's you remember what happened with Bitcoins, right?
Right. I still remember.
FOMO, fear of missing out.
Right.
That's the reason why on the launch day for these things, Black Friday, you fear of missing out. We have this thing built into our DNA as a culture now that if we don't participate in it somehow, we miss out. The only thing we don't really get the FOMO for is for elections because, 17% of the population votes at voting age, but, Popeye's Chicken or Walmart announces they got 2 40-inch TVs for $99.
Right.
People will go to war over it.
If Krispy Kreme showed up with donuts for voters, everyone in America would go vote now.
Yeah, probably so. But then you'd have your Dunkin' faction. They're like, I'm not going because the Krispy Kreme's there. Yeah.
It just blows my mind that people are literally being stabbed. People are fighting. Fights are breaking out in the line because somebody cut in front People are dying over this stinking chicken sandwich.
An employee got arrested because he dropped a 55-year-old woman the other day in the restaurant, beat her and like severely injured her.
Y'all,
so
what?
Yeah,
calm down.
Yeah, you wouldn't get that from Chick-fil-A. They may stop and lay a hand on you and pray for you.
They'll pray for you,
but they're not going to freaking slap you around.
But what's going on in our society that we are just like the mob mentality? Like, what is going on?
Here's the thing. The Popeye's chicken sandwich is decent. Look, I think we agreed last week that the pickle and the bread was what made it.
Right.
I think for the most part.
Sure.
But you wouldn't. People. I guess it's like going to your grandma's on Sunday after church at Chick-fil-A. You have a respectful attitude. You're not going to hear the F-bomb dropped in there many times. People have a different level of respect. You go to Popeyes, that's like, I just left Granny's house and I'm going for the 2-for-1 strip club night.
No, and
you lose all common sense in the place.
Well, we've lost all common sense across the board, I believe. But no, I agree with that. We have just lost our ever-loving mind. All right, so speaking of, let's go to Hot Topics, brought to you by Watchman Cigars. If you want a quality cigar at a reasonable price, check out our friends at Watchman Cigars. All right, guys, the sport that has been pitched as a safer alternative to football amid growing evidence of football's physical toll on participants has now become under question. You guys remember like how football is so dangerous? These concussions are just out of hand. We can't possibly play this horrible sport anymore, so everybody's now going to play soccer, the communist sport. But when it comes to concussions, it's not much different than football, especially for a teenage girl. According to a study of 20 high school sports published last November, girls soccer is the second highest on the list of a concussion rate. The University of North Carolina found that football has the highest concussion rate with 10.4 concussions per 10,000 athletic exposures, followed by girls soccer with 8.19 concussions. Boys soccer had a much lower rate of 3.57. UNC researchers looked at the injuries per athletic exposures for high school students between 2013 and 14 and 17 and 18. For every athlete, one practice or competition is counted as one exposure. Overall, 9,542 concussions were reported during the study period. The UNC study found that heading the ball was responsible for 25% of the concussions, but close to 50% were associated with collusion. I want to say collusions, but it's collisions. Why I keep seeing collusions, but it's collisions among players. Another common way is by hitting their head on the ground. Guys, it's not that safe. Much safer. The whole left wing wanted us all to go to soccer because it's so safe. But everybody's getting concussions. They say that guys aren't having as much concussions because they don't want to report that they've actually had a concussion playing soccer.
Oh, so the numbers are skewed.
The numbers are skewed because they're not self-reporting.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm a man. I'll take it. The other excuse was that...
then you let the patriarchy clip in.
Yep, and then the other excuse was that women's necks are a lot more brittle than guys. They say that the experts say that could be an option.
Maybe it's not the guys aren't reporting due to masculinity. Maybe it's the guys not reporting because of their desire to play or that feeling that they have to play. You know what I'm saying? Like that becomes part of your identity. I am a football player. I am a baseball player. I am a, sweeper on what you call it, the ice sweeping thing, whatever. But
you're going back to vacuums again?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
I mean, lots of, you talk about guys always like playing hurt. Like that's a thing that happens.
Right.
Especially, I know in football, but in all sports.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't tell the medical staff exactly what's going on because they're competitors. They have that, especially at top levels, they're bred. I mean, they're so like high strung for that stuff.
Right. Well, because they have something on the line too.
Yeah.
In a lot of these competitive sports. Anyway, I just want a tangent with the patriarchy, comment that we have and everything in society now.
I do think it's interesting. Yeah, I do think football is, you got a high risk of concussions, but supposedly the safer sport is actually causing a lot of concussions as well.
So I have a theory about this. I think it might be that like humans are becoming more, some of us anyway, are more physically, like we've kind of figured out how to dial in the physicality and how to build the right body. So things are happening faster and balls are being
100%.
hit harder. And, you know, they talk about, like, especially football, like in the 60s and 70s, those guys wore like a Burger King crown instead of a helmet.
Right, yeah.
And all those guys ended up having issues anyway, but you know, they didn't know it until way down the road. But to me, I think we've got this performance, like everyone's so finely tuned.
Yeah.
Especially like even into high school sports, like their training regiments and their nutritional intake and stuff. They're building themselves to be more efficient athletes.
Yeah.
Which I think things are happening faster, and our bodies can't really keep up with that.
Yeah. Well, that's a good call. I would agree with that. The other thing that I thought was interesting about this article is talking about concussions is that there's really no clear defined way of saying that they're good to go back. There's one family that this article was following. They asked Dr. David Marshall, the medical director of the sports medicine program at Children's Healthcare in Atlanta. After the latest concussion, the mother asked, I asked him, when we reach the point when she can't play soccer anymore, Marshall told him there is no magic number or set recovery time. This is interesting. The hospital no longer prescribes a week or longer to complete cognitive rest with quiet time or a dimly lit room. The goal now is to make the kids' lives, quote, as normal as possible, because having them miss out of too much school and cutting them off for their friends was causing an emotional stress. He recommends children miss no more than 2 to 3 days and then return for half days to be able to rest in the nurse's office as needed. There should also be accommodations to avoiding loud noises in the cafeteria and gym. One constant remains: young athletes should be free of all concussion symptoms before resuming even light aerobic activity, such as a walk in the neighborhood, gradually increasing intensity, and only to return to sports after getting the okay from a doctor. Marshall said the key to recovery was making sure the young athlete's brain has healed before resuming the sport. And if it takes longer than 3 months, the family has to consider, is it really worth another concussion? 3 months, and then be like, oh, okay, I guess they shouldn't play that sport anymore.
So they're more concerned about emotional stress than permanent physical disability down the road.
Right, because they want them to feel as normal as possible. I just thought that was weird.
That's
coming from Atlanta.
That's where the CDC is.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I'm just like, anyway. So I'm going on record to say that I have been in concussion since 1994. So I reduced my activity level, and I shall sit in a dimly lit room for the remainder of the day. So anyway, I just thought that was very interesting. Any other thoughts?
Things aren't simple anymore. Like, you back in the day, you would just make a judgment decision. Like, hey, yeah, I feel better. I think I'm going to go try it out. We're going to try to put some weight on this leg. Right. Now we got protocols and mismatch, and then, psychological therapy that you got to order, infrared lights to put over your eyes. It's just, I don't know. It's just complicated. Maybe we should just do away with sports. We'll just, make fighting for a Popeye's chicken sandwich as a sport or something like that.
Oh, that actually would be good.
Yeah, go back to simpler times when there was only one chicken sandwich.
Yeah, I agree. I like that.
If you're in the market for a high-quality cigar for a very reasonable price, you must check out our friends at Watchman Cigars. Watchman Cigars is a family-owned business that puts the customer first with the best customer service in the business. Watchman Cigars offers the Habano for a full, spicy flavor, the Connecticut for a mild, easy-to-smoke option, and the Maduro for a strong, powerful experience. They even do specialty blends and partner with you to provide a custom, exclusive line just for you. Watchman Cigars has all your cigar needs. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Watchman Cigars 1991, or check out his new website at watchmancigars.com or the sponsor section of our website. All right, so here's the next one, and I want to get your all's opinion. Netflix test speed binge feature and draws Hollywood outrage. There's a new feature that Netflix is quietly testing, and it's quickly drawn a big backlash from Hollywood creatives. The savvy mobile users of the streaming service has spotted a new feature on the Netflix Android app that allows subscribers to speed up or slow down playback without muting the volume, so you can playback speeds to 0.5, 0.75, 1, 1.25, or 1.5, respectively. The feature is not unlike what most podcasts and audio apps already have and is used by some listeners to consume more content quicker. In some cases, they have to slow it down because they have difficulty understanding, like my father. First blush response from the industry creatives, however, was not good. Turns out the filmmakers don't like the idea of viewers watching their painstakingly crafted work on chipmunk mode. What do you guys think about being able to binge watch at a higher speed instead of just the normal?
Why would you want to? If you're going to take time out to sit down and watch a show that has no commercials already, why would you? I don't know. I mean, you can if you want to. I could care less, but I wouldn't. I mean, I'm taking time out to enjoy something that I'm watching. Right. So
I have this mental picture in my head, like you see movies where they're brainwashing somebody and their eyes are like clipped open, and they're just like images are flashing through. I just imagine someone like watching Breaking Bad that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that
just to get it all in.
Right. That's what they were saying.
We don't have enough time to watch 7 seasons of anything.
Maybe they'll condense it down to Cliff Notes. Like the trailer, they'll just make a trailer like twice as long.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be like 8 minutes long, and then that'll be the whole show. Just be nothing but highlights.
That wouldn't actually be a bad idea.
None of the story building.
No character development. Just this is what happened.
Yeah.
Credits.
Yeah. Like it'd be almost like a telenovela style soap opera. Just quick clips and bam, you're out.
Hey, careful. I don't think that's telenovela. What do you think about losing the artistical integrity of the film by speeding it up 1.5 times?
Well, filmmakers they're artists. They craft their thing to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And I've heard even podcasters talk about this. They're not going to cater to people. If you want to speed it up, that's on you.
Right.
But we made it this way. It's an art form. It's a thing we've created. We want it to look a certain way. We chose a certain frame rate because we want the image to be a certain smoothness, things like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad.
Right.
Because by the time it gets to Netflix, the money's already in the bank. But,
that's a good point.
They've already paid the rights for that stuff. Yeah. If, some college kid wants to sit there and just, stare at the screen, watch stuff go by faster.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Well, I think eventually what will happen is if Netflix offers this, then Hulu and Amazon go to it, and all of a sudden Amazon and Hulu notices that maybe they're getting some fire back, then they can not offer the service, and maybe, customers would move over to them.
Free market.
Yeah. So, the free market will answer it, but I think it's stupid because it's like reading a book. You don't read like 3 pages of a 10-page chapter and then move on to the next chapter. Like you said, the author an author is a wordsmith trying to portray a story or an idea, and he's crafting the idea, he's building that idea. And all of a sudden, if you take, 66% of that out, you're going to be lost.
Well, do you listen to podcasts at a faster rate?
No, I think it sounds stupid.
I listen to them, and they're like, I do 1.2, so it kind of breaks up some of the in between stuff. Like the pauses. It makes it, a little bit better.
And that's your choice. I don't, just because you want. For me, music, podcasting is basically. It's soothing to the ears. You're trying to obtain an idea.
Have you listened to our show?
I'm not talking about our show.
Listen to this show.
I'm saying that you're trying to learn. If you listen to a podcast, and it's something specific, you're dialing into that to hear a story, to hear someone's perspective, to get information.
Right.
And I find I absorb that better if I listen at a normal speed, normal pace, normal cadence.
Now, do you ever go the other way and slow it down, and it sounds like they're drunk? That's really funny, by the way.
No, I have not done that.
You got to try that.
I think this could come back to bite Netflix a little bit, because they're paying, say they're paying based on a certain number of views.
Uh-huh.
And if content creators start creating things that are optimized for this, like episodes could be, a person could watch more in the same amount of time. So say your compensation was based on views on the show. like individual watches to the whole thing.
Right.
If it's not 40 minutes anymore and it's 35 minutes, like those are going to skew down eventually, and they're going to have to pay for more views in that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They could, like financially, it could come back to bite them if that's the way the market works. Anyway, that's the way.
But also, you could also have content creators shop their content around, and like Netflix.
I don't want to be part of that.
Yeah, Netflix could become the blockbuster of streaming.
Right.
And not
like
have
Martin Scorsese's not going to be on Netflix.
Yeah, like I'm going to, I'm going to release, like you have a big anticipated show or movie, and they're only going to release, and they're going to, block out Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, because the content creator wants for their episode or show to be valued.
Yeah. I will say, like, I'm seeing commercials for the Apple Plus TV. There's some good quality shows, it looks like, that's on.
Yeah, I'm illegally streaming several episodes right now.
Good for you. Yeah, way to go.
It's very good. Also, Disney Plus, too.
How about Disney Plus? That started out.
It like broke on Tuesday or whatever, didn't it? Did you guys have issues with that?
No, not on my legally streaming one.
Oh, okay.
How do you get Disney Plus?
Like, how subscribe
do you stream
to
it? Pay money.
So you pay money.
$7.99 a month or something
or buy an iPhone.
But I just heard today that if you have Verizon, they're running some kind of deal right now that you can get the Disney Plus for free.
Yeah.
You can, but there's always a catch to it with your cell phone plan.
You have to change to
unlimited, which we already have.
So
but there's
you're out.
Yeah, but there's a new thing now where it's like because Apple or
extra unlimited or something.
AT&T has the same thing, but you could get one of their streaming services or something for free.
You get DirecTV.
Something you get something for free. Yeah, well, once we looked into it, the throttle, if they throttle back sooner, so you get unlimited data, but once you hit like 20 megs or something like that, they cap it out and it slows down.
Yeah. Also, if you buy a new like iPhone or iPad or something, you get it for a year for free. So,
but
they want people watching it. That's what it's about.
Yeah. And it was interesting. Talking about cell phone plans, I remember 3 years ago, I was begging for an unlimited plan. Couldn't get it. Now I can't not get it. It's just interesting.
Yeah, they kind of pigeonhole you into certain plans now. And like you really can't just go in and pay for the phone anymore. They like it's 28, it's 36, it's 48. If you get a new iPhone,
you can if you do it. You can.
Yeah, you can, but they almost make it seem like it's not an option.
You have to know how to do that.
Yeah,
exactly.
You can't just walk in and go, I don't want to pay $700 now.
Right.
Yeah, the OnePlus, like we talked about on the show, like I didn't have to buy it from Verizon. I just bought it outright and put it on Verizon Network, and it was fine. So,
but nobody has that phone.
It's a great phone.
I've heard good things. There's like 10 people have it.
What?
9 out of 10.
It is a good phone. I like it, so suck it.
I've heard good things about it.
I'm just kidding.
If it just had a different operating system, I'd be doing it,
Yeah, sure. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we have in studio Gwen Bartley with Amazing Grace Advocacy. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast. Hook, Line, and Heroes is a 501c3 nonprofit based in Charlotte, North Carolina. Founded in 2017 to show God's love and appreciation for our disabled and PTS military veterans. They provide professionally guided fishing trips to nominated veterans at no cost to the veteran. Hook, Line, and Heroes has provided over 30-plus trips around the Carolinas since their founding, from red fishing down in Charleston to striper fishing on Lake Norman, and even offshore fishing down in Florida. Each trip is a one-on-one experience with a member of the organization, aiming to provide a day of fun and relaxation on the water and begin a lifelong relationship with them. Each veteran leaves the day with a fully stocked tackle box, rod and reel, apparel, a Bible, and a daily devotion to kickstart their new hobby and build their relationship with God. Please take the time to visit their website at hooklineandheroes.org to hear and learn more about them. You can help in many ways by nominating a veteran you know through their website, join their monthly giving program, Healing Heroes, or send a one-time personal or corporate donation. You'll also be happy to hear that they are completely volunteer-run, and nearly 100% of your donations goes directly towards providing trips for the veterans. Be sure to follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn to see their veteran stories and to show your support. All right, we're back. This is the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast. If you don't know that, you're an idiot. Anyway, we have in studio Gwen Bartley from Amazing Grace Advocacy. What an amazing organization that you have to help with people understanding mental illness, to connect people that feel like they have no resources. And just on a personal note, we would not have foster kid number 2 without Gwen as a friend and Amazing Grace Advocacy. They went above and beyond to help get this thing pushed through. So, Gwen, thank you for what you do, and thank you for changing my life, again, for mostly the better, except at 4 a.m. That's when I cuss you out. But, again, thank you so much.
Happy to be here.
Gwen, tell us a little bit about your organization. Do a better job of what you guys do. We've had you on the show. You've been on an episode before, but some people may have not listened. What do you guys do? Producer Brian raises his hand. How have you not listened to all the episodes? What do you guys do for North Carolina and across the country?
So our main goal is to help families that are raising really complex children. Mm-hmm. So that means kids that have anything that's affecting their brain and their function. Okay. So it can be mental health, intellectual disabilities, autism, traumatic experiences, anything that's affecting how they behave and how they see the world. Our goal is to really help parents understand how to navigate different systems and their entire domains of life. So not only clinically with therapy and so on, but medically, educationally, what they're doing for recreation in the family, what they're doing for spirituality, what they need to be whole and have quality of life. That is our goal, and every family is different, and every family has their very particular needs, so we really work individually, one-on-one with each family. And we serve this area of North Carolina, but we do get calls all over the state and even in different states throughout the country as well. So we do most of our work locally because we're embedded with the specific providers and school systems in this area, but we go wherever it's needed and try and do our best virtually if need be. But yeah, that's in a nutshell what we do. We work with children ages birth, as you know,
right.
All the way through that transition to adulthood. So we have some kids in their early 20s that we don't hand them off until they're secure with adult services. So it's not a solid cutoff date, and just making sure that they're going to go on to be successful little adults in whatever that looks like. We have all kinds of severity as well. So we have, kids that might just be having some behavioral issues, ADHD type of things, all the way up to very serious mental illness, kids with extreme severe behaviors with autism, kids that can't remain in their home safely. So kind of the whole gamut of kiddos.
Times have dramatically changed from, at least even in my generation, where it was just suck it up, buttercup, get over it, move on, deal with it. But nobody ever taught you how to deal with it as a kid. Even we talked a couple weeks ago about depression and how just that has changed in society. What are some other stigmas that you still see that are prevalent in today's culture, even when we're trying to be sensitive?
Stigma is a funny word because I'm actually an anti-stigma person as far as we've used the word stigma almost as a crutch now. Like we can't get services because there's stigma or this type of thing. And the truth of the matter is that I would say the majority of families that come to us are way beyond stigma. Their barriers to getting help is financial and insurance. So instead of being afraid to go seek help, they're begging for help, but they can't get it. In one of the good things that has happened in our society is we are talking about mental health pretty regularly. It's every day somewhere you hear, right? Some way or another. And that's good because we are definitely in our schools being more open to having kids discussing these things. discussions within families. But the downside of it is we did away with a lot of, have it being stigmatized, but now we don't have the resources to help people. We don't have enough providers. We don't have financial accessibility. It's tough because we've kind of created a problem that we weren't prepared. It's like building the subdivision with no road infrastructure around
right.
it, And that's really what we see right now is a huge problem.
So financial insurance, is it the issue with the insurance not knowing how to deal with it?
No, it's
how to cover?
So this is going to be my soapbox. Are you ready?
Come on.
Okay. So this is what I go up and scream and rant in Raleigh, North Carolina about. So what we've done is we've divided mental health services into two categories. Okay. We have families that qualify for Medicaid, and those children basically can think of the platinum plans on Obamacare, okay? There's no limits, there's no copays. There are a good selection of providers available. If the kids are really severe and they need to go into residential treatment, hospitalizations, it can happen as long as you have Medicaid. Then we have our working families who have commercial private insurance, and we have allowed the insurance companies to basically silo mental health care or care for people with intellectual disabilities or autism, and they have put extreme limits on those services. So if you want to go to a therapist and you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, I'm throwing you guys right under the bus there, you might get 12 visits a year. Okay. That's paid for with a copay, but that copay might be pretty high. It might be like a specialist type of copay, like $70. Okay. If a kid needs a lot of therapy once a week, do the math. Like, what family can afford that?
Right.
So, but that's a good insurance plan that actually allows you to even have mental health care. Some don't even cover it. The other part of the problem is the next level of care. So let's say outpatient therapy is not working for this kid. They need to go into a hospital. Most insurance companies are only going to authorize 7 to 14 days of a kid in a psychiatric hospital. Mm-hmm. There's kids that need to be in psychiatric residential centers for 9 to 12 months. They're not going to get in. Wow. The insurance is not going to pay for it. At the max, we have gotten some kids 30 days. But then you're kind of opening a can of worms for these kids because you're starting some heavy-duty treatment, and then you're yanking them out and sending them home. Yeah. So they're oftentimes worse off than if you just didn't open that can of worms for them.
Oh, wow.
So it's really difficult to get kids that have come from working families with insurance any kind of coverage for. It's particularly a problem for kids that have severe autism. They require a very specialized type of treatment and services, and we just don't have very many facilities that will do that kind of work to begin with, and they almost never accept any kind of private insurance.
Why is that?
It's too expensive for the insurance companies.
Wow. Huh.
So these treatment facilities, they can run in excess of $150,000 to $200,000 for treatment.
Holy cow!
Yeah, so insurance companies just don't want to cover it. And we have something in the state rolling out called Medicaid Transformation.
Okay.
Which is going to take our basic Medicaid system and turn it into somewhat of an Obamacare. So there's going to be private insurance companies that are going to manage our Medicaid system instead of the state managing it. So that is currently started, but because of our state budget stalemate, it stalled in Raleigh, and so we're not really sure on hard dates of when it's going to roll out. But that's going to change Medicaid for a lot of our families. The kids that are the most severe, that need these really high levels of care, they're going to be put into a different pocket of Medicaid so that they'll still be able to access their services. It's going to be very complicated. That's something we help families try and navigate and be educated about right now, so they're ready for it.
Just so I understand, so if you have private insurance, you may be able to get the Medicaid transformation?
No. So that's our whole that's our whole why our budget is being held up, because Governor Cooper wants the Medicaid income limits to be expanded for Medicaid expansion.
To go higher?
To go higher, so more people qualify for Medicaid, because Medicaid is based solely on your income.
Okay.
So, which all of us advocates in this work want Medicaid expansion, because obviously there's so many families that are kind of on that bubble and they really need that Medicaid. However, if we're already doing Medicaid transformation, which means we're taking a very large system, a complex system, and we're privatizing it into 5 basically commercial insurance companies, Blue Cross Blue Shield being one of them.
Okay.
That's huge. And it's difficult.
Sure.
If we were to do Medicaid expansion at the same time that we're rolling out Medicaid transformation, there's an estimate that there's going to be 500,000 more North Carolinians thrown into that system.
Oh, wow.
So if you take a complex system that you're already totally revamping and you throw 500,000 more people into it, you're going to collapse the system.
So basically I'm thinking about doing construction work at Concord Mills during Black Friday.
Exactly.
Like it is just backed up and you're no longer be able to move.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And then what happens is, our most fragile individuals on Medicaid who are in situations like group homes, treatment centers, if our system collapses, what happens to all those people that are, very severe and can't be reintegrated into their communities or their homes?
Yeah.
So it's a scary prospect because they don't have a good plan for it. So that's why the state is having a battle over this, because the governor has vetoed the budget unless Medicaid expansion is added into the Medicaid transformation, and all the Republican legislature is saying no, we want to do it separately, and they can't seem to come to an agreement on it.
Do you know the income level of where that would go from?
They haven't. The numbers are always kind of fluctuating, but basically right now, here's how you would qualify. If you bring in over $2,600 a month, you are not going to qualify for Medicaid. So let's think about that. Like, how many people raising a family with maybe 2 kids are living on $2,600 a month? Yeah. I mean, that's a really low.
Very low. Yeah.
They are talking about raising it, I believe, to be about $3,600 a month, but that number keeps sliding all over the place. I've seen it go as high as like 55 down, if you have like 6 kids, there's all these algorithms of how many kids you have, what your income level is. So again, to throw such a complex issue haphazardly into a state budget and not have plans for it, it's...
Why does Cooper want to expand an additional 500,000?
Medicaid expansion has been going on all over the country. We're like one of 11 states that has not done it. So it's kind of a popular thing that's going on. And it's needed. It's definitely needed because, again, how many people really are you serving when you're putting a cutoff at $2,600 a month?
But you only have a limited amount of services, though. It's not like you bring in 500,000 new people. It's not like all of a sudden you're going to have 5,000 new doctors of specialty. Right. It's what we're asking for is an entire crap show here. I mean, literally. Yeah. I mean, because you have finite services, you have finite people that specialize in areas, but you have an enormous amount of new people. I know Medicare expansion has been the Democrat platform for the 2020 election now. That's all we hear about. Medicare for all. Mm-hmm.
Right.
You can't just add infinite amount of people to something and not that'd be like Popeye's chicken and all of a sudden giving out free coupons to everybody. It's going to be a madhouse.
Right, exactly. And that's what all of us that work in this field are terrified of, because we're already struggling to find services for families.
Yeah.
There's a huge shortage of trauma-informed therapists.
Okay.
And we'll talk a little bit more about trauma in a minute.
Yep.
And there's a huge shortage of adolescent psychiatrists. Currently, if let's say your kiddo ends up in a psychiatric hospital, a suicide attempt or major depression, okay? You've never been to any mental health provider before. And the hospital says you're going to need to follow up with a psychiatrist next week, which is what hospitals are telling people, right?
Okay.
So you go home to your community, you call all the child psychiatrists in the area. There may be 4, okay?
Right.
None of them will have an opening. You'll be put on a list for a new patient. You might get an appointment in 6 months.
Wow.
Like, that's the reality. That's what we're dealing with here in Cabarrus County.
Wow.
So, yeah, exactly. If you don't build that infrastructure to take on what you're trying to add to a system, you're going to crash a system. And it's too fragile of a system to crash. We can't afford it.
There's one way to fix it, but it would take a few years to do it, and we would not have quality, quality care at all. It would just be, this guy went to school for 6 years and his IQ level's 93, but he's going to write me a prescription for something.
Or he stayed at a Holiday Inn Express.
Yeah. Your quality of care goes down once you start becoming the regulator and the rationer of a service. Then your quality goes down quite a bit. So,
yeah. And it's tough. You talked about trauma-informed counselors. Like, those are really hard to find.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm excited to share with you guys is we, as Cabarrus County, where we live, we were given an opportunity to apply for a grant from the state called the Trauma-Informed Community Grant. Okay. And so I was charged to be the lead in that, and worked with a team of 10 major stakeholders here in the county, and we put together a really great grant proposal, and we got it.
Awesome.
Nice.
So we start next week working with the state. They're going to be, we are one of 3 counties in North Carolina that was chosen for this.
Wow.
So what they're going to be doing is coming in and looking at what we've got, what we've been doing, where our needs, where our gaps, and helping us create a framework of making Cabarrus County be a leader in trauma-informed care. So we have, starting next Wednesday till June 30th of 2019, to build this framework with the state. So I'm really excited to be a part of that, because it's trauma is probably the number one issue that we have across this country, and it affects, obviously, every aspect of a kid's life. And I think, we were talking a little bit about, even with the athletics, like how when we were growing up, kids were tougher, or, and now you hear, or even like, so many kids are diagnosed now with autism. How many kids did you know when you were growing up had autism? Like,
I didn't even know what that was.
Right. And so, we really look at this as, is this really something new that's coming up because of some environmental issue that's going on with, as women are pregnant, so on and so forth? Or was it always there and it just was never diagnosed properly, and those were the kids that were just odd, We don't know, because there's just not hard data on it.
Yeah.
Because we've had this, me and my wife and a few other people have had this kind of just thought experiment of like, because they said the rates now are, the chances of someone having autism is like 1 in, by the year 2030, I think it's supposed to be 1 in 8 or something like that, 1 in 9. It's going to be high.
Yeah.
But 25 years ago, it was like 1 in 650.
Huh. So
either A, we've become better at detecting it, or B, something maybe possibly causing it. But, and I happen to, personally, me, conspiracy, I'm starting on a segue, but I think it's something maybe causing it, because we're a population of 300 million. People our age, I was born in 1977, we'd have a largeable, sizable population of people that would be, you could obviously say, all right, this person's autistic, this person is has Asperger's, this persons fall somewhere on the spectrum. So I don't know. It's odd. And as we increase in this, as the ratio becomes greater, the need is going to become greater. And going back to the Medicare expansion, how do we find care for everyone?
Yeah.
I'm sure you asked the same question too. I mean,
daily.
Yeah.
Daily. Yeah. And it's, what we're seeing happen too is like you can have a child that's born, neurotypical, right? No present signs. And then things start to develop, 3-4 years old. All of a sudden they're starting to actually regress and lose abilities. It's really scary because they don't know why. And they haven't found a common denominator. So there's always a ton of research of, is it immunizations? Because that's something that happens during that thing. They've kind of debunked that, but I think there's still a lot to look at with all of that.
Well, coffee is bad and then coffee is good. I think,
Right.
The science is still out on a lot of things. It'd be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see in the next 15 years where we actually see. But of course, in 15 years, that ratio may be greater, maybe 1 in 3.
Yeah.
Like eggs, like they said eggs were bad for you. Now they say they're good
eggs
for you.
are great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm confused.
Yeah, it's very confusing. But going back to the trauma aspect is, so something is going on with children that is bringing this trauma level higher. Because there's always been abuse and neglect, right? But we're seeing really serious trauma that is affecting these kids in their development, where they're not able to function, they're not able to learn, they're not able to develop your basic skills like remorse, empathy, and zero impulse control, just all these things, and they're all trauma-based. You can have a child that has a totally normal IQ, has no reason why they can't succeed in school. And they can't because they've been exposed to trauma. And trauma therapy is long. It takes a long time. It's not something that you can do for 8 weeks with a kiddo and, wean them down and then they're on their merry way. Trauma therapy can take years. And some kids don't necessarily recover. There can be, in real severe cases, there can be actual hard wiring that changes within their brain.
Yeah.
And once those pathways are there, their behaviors and their how their outlook is on life and how they react with other people, it's not fixable.
Yeah.
And it's so our goal is the sooner you can prevent. Right, so the earlier you catch these kids and get the right things in place and get the parents behaving in ways that doesn't cause more trauma, then your outcomes are going to be better. Because really by the age of 7 or 8, if a kiddo has not been taken out of a traumatic environment or has had therapies to deal with what they've been exposed to, the outcomes start really declining pretty quick.
And it was brought to my attention going through classes, like the trauma. I always think of the trauma being you got physically abused, mentally abused, those type of things. But even learning that trauma can happen inside the womb for that child, even if it's not born, it can already experience that trauma. And when it comes out, as soon as it comes out, it can already experience that trauma. And that blew my mind that it even
there's actually been studies done of Holocaust survivors and their kids, and they've actually found out that trauma can be encoded in DNA, and that can actually be passed upon several generation lines. So you could have a Holocaust survivor, their kid, their kid's kid, and their kid's kid's kid could actually have some presence of that trauma encoded in their gene.
Yeah. I have read about that before too, and that's really something that families of adoption, which almost all of us here at this table deal with that.
Brian, why aren't you?
Come on,
we need
always got to be the oddball.
We need to get Brian a kid.
What are we talking about?
That you're an oddball out. You're the only one here who's not a adoptive parent.
Oh,
Would you like one?
It's like a teenager.
Full, yeah.
Got a couple of those at my house. But what they're
Did you
finding...
just adopt shame him?
Is that a thing?
Actually, that could be a good thing.
Hey, we could find a lot of kids' homes, right? But
for 69 cents a week, you too.
It ain't 69 cents a week. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
No, I just saw it. I just saw another one of these commercials today.
You'll never sleep again. But the children that are, while they're in utero, they're hearing the mother's voice, and then they're born. They can have a perfectly healthy, normal birth, but then the next person that's holding them is not that voice. And so that in itself, they've found lasts and lingers with children of adoption. But yeah, it's really, the trauma factor is really something that we see a lot. And what's unfortunate is we see a lot of it accompanying autism, accompanying intellectual disabilities, because those kids are really hard to care for. And so it's really easy for a parent to lose their cool and start abusing a kid that's really difficult, or neglecting a child that's really difficult, And so we're starting to see these layers of these kids coming in with multiple diagnoses, and you don't even know where to start, because do you treat the trauma first, or do you try and, start treating the disabilities first? You just, where to start?
Here we have all these, like you said, we don't know where to start, but we're trying to dump another $500,000 in the state of North Carolina into the system that we don't know what to do with.
Yeah. And how many? You said we're only one of 11 states that haven't done this.
Yeah.
Imagine all the other states that are also backwards.
But also, how about the states who've actually implemented
That's
it?
what I'm saying.
Yeah, and how backed up or how messed up their system is.
Right.
But they fulfilled a political promise, probably.
Exactly. That's what it is.
That's all it is.
Well, and there's some states, and one of the things that I do participate in is an organization or association of maternal and child health programs. It's called AMCHIP. And so annually I go to a conference and participate with them throughout the year of looking at what different states are doing for health programs and how they work, and borrowing ideas from each other. And there's some states that have done a fantastic job, but they've done it with really having everything in place before they plunk these people into the system. Yeah. And, our state does not do a good job. Our legislature does not do a good job of that in any.
No, our state does a horrible. This is the reason why I have little faith in state government, and this goes across the board. I think state governments suck at anything because they sit in their little, the center of their state, and they make judgment calls. The roads around Charlotte, we have had a population influx of over 800,000 people in the last 15 years. You can't get anywhere in Charlotte in certain communities now without an hour commute, for like a 25-mile drive. Yeah. We had poor planning. We had poor infrastructure, but invited all these people in by recruiting these corporations and things like that. That's basically what we're doing with Medicare expansion. We're recruiting people to vote for our party to implement this, but we don't have the infrastructure yet. So we're trying to move in all these 500,000 new North Carolinians to a Medicare expansion, but we haven't even built the roads or the sewer system yet. Yeah. And then we're going to be wondering why I can't get an appointment.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and we have a shortage of psychiatric beds all over the state. So kids that are in Cabarrus County that need a higher level of care for mental health, they're going, most of our kids are going shipped over to the coast. So, yeah, so you have parents that their kids are 4 and 5 hours away. Wow. And so how is a child going to get better and come back home if their family is not involved in their treatment, right?
But what also sucks is, for example, let's just say you have a bordering city to a bordering state. For example, Charlotte is less than 15 minutes from Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Right.
The kid from Charlotte will have to be shipped over to the coast, opposed to going across state lines.
Yeah.
Well, good news. I will tell you, there's one facility, and I'll give a shout out to good old New Hope in South Carolina.
Way to go, New Hope.
They will take our kids, but we have to, it's a little bit tricky with getting some paperwork done, but they will take our kids that are on Medicaid.
But that's one facility.
One facility.
One facility.
But it is really tough because most of the families that I'm working with, their kids are getting, because most of the facilities are on the East Coast of the state. And yeah, it's an enormous expense. You're not participating in treatment. You can't put eyes on your kid to make sure that they're not being abused or neglected or whatever. Yeah. And these facilities aren't great. They are not good at all. And there's very little state oversight on them. So it's, we have to say it's a system would indicate that it works. Or to indicate that it's even broken, right? We don't have a system. We just have this...
Band-Aids to a problem.
Yeah.
It's like having open heart surgery and trying to sew it up with Band-Aids.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to go back to, you talked about private insurance and how that's not being offered to, mental health isn't a big thing on private insurance. And most of that, because I have a little bit of inside knowledge of that, is most of it is done by the companies that you work for, negotiating with the insurance companies of what they're going to pay for and what they're not. So I would suggest this is the annual enrollment time. Go to your company and say, we want the insurance with better mental health as well, mental health coverage, and try to get your companies to actively pursue better negotiations with those insurance companies for more coverage for mental health. I think that would be huge. I know our company that I work for, they listened to their employees somewhat and implemented a new policy for foster parents that allows us to have 8 weeks off because people complained enough that, hey, we don't have that option. We don't have that bonding time. So your company, if you're listening to this, may have that avenue where you can go to them and say, we want an insurance plan that covers more mental health. So I would advocate for that as well.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And it's really cost effective for companies because if the right services are put in place early on, right, when you start seeing some warning signs and you get the kids treatment, that is much less expensive.
Yeah.
And you're not having families taking time off work.
Well, we don't operate that way. We don't operate in a preventative manner. Right. It is, Jimmy had a lesion on his face for 10 years. Now it's full-blown cancer. Well, the doctor turned him right for 10 years. I mean,
right. Exactly.
That's how we operate.
Yep.
We'll do a bake sale for the Diabetes Foundation. Because that makes sense.
Going back to talking about insurance, my wife's company has now, instead of implementing useful, like to the majority of the company, majority of the people, they've now started implementing social justice insurance policies catered towards probably less than 2% of the total company population.
Right.
And that's troubling right there. They're not focusing on real needs. They're focusing on perceived needs just to have it in their company portfolio.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's insurance companies have basically, in my opinion, taken over government. Mm-hmm. They, for a good example is in 2013, the Mental Health Parity Act was passed, which stated that insurance companies had to treat mental health services in the same way that physical health services are. So, we had to shift to, not having pre-existing conditions, all of these different things, no limits, all cancer treatments, all this. And this law passed in 2013 saying that all mental health services had to be treated the same. And somehow they have gotten around it with loopholes, and they don't treat it the same. So your copays are different, your deductible is different, your level of service is different. So it would be like, Brandon, you're a good example. So even though your insurance company wasn't happy, you needed a heart transplant. So you got the heart transplant. You had access to go to the hospital and get a heart transplant.
Right.
So someone with schizophrenia who needs to be in a long-term care, let's say group home, if they have private insurance, meaning that they might actually do well enough sometimes that they could work, so they don't qualify for Medicaid, which is the case with some people with schizophrenia. but then all of a sudden they have a break and they need to go into some care. It might be, 6-9 months where they need to be in a facility. The insurance companies can say no. So how is a brain disease any different than heart disease? Yeah. But they get away with it.
Look, it's all backwards. I mean, you talking about Medicaid versus private insurance. I mean, my insurance company was charged $1.2 million for my heart transplant. The same surgery on Medicaid was $56,000. There's so many variables. Actually, there's no variables. It's just how they flush out things.
Yeah.
And I think both systems are equally broken, and I just don't understand. Side note, you've seen it in our community where we have our shop at. We have a lot of homeless, and not saying all homeless are, but there's a good portion of homeless people that have some type of mental illness. The community where we're at has an overflux of it. What say you if we had a pool of our tax dollars here in the state and opened up state mental facilities that were monitored? I'm not saying the ghosts of the 20s and 30s right. where, post smallpox and that were turning into mental facilities, but what do you think of having state-run facilities like that to house?
Yeah, we're begging for it. So here's
talking about stigmas. That was a big stigma.
Here's our federal government at its finest. So back in Kennedy's era, he deinstitutionalized mental health centers because they had become those asylums, right? And they were mismanaged. So in the 60s, they made a rule that they made all kinds of rules that basically did away with over the years. And by the 80s, all of them were closed. Things like you can't have more than 16 beds. You can't keep someone for more than X amount of hours. All these different kind of rules. So most of the advocates now for mental health across the United States, we have been fighting that to try and get, let's think about some, we don't have to go back to the days of asylums, but there's got to be a happy medium.
Sure.
And there's got to be places, there's some people that have such serious mental illness, they cannot recover, and they need care, and they need quality of life, and they need to be safe, not only for themselves, but the community they're living in. And let's get this homeless rate down. Yeah. It's a battle. Baby steps are happening with it, but it's a constant advocacy work that's going on across the country. But yeah, if we see it in our lifetime, I would be really surprised.
Wow.
It's hard to turn that ship around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to turn a Carnival Cruise Line ship around probably takes quite a few feet.
Well, and if you think, so the reason why is it's extremely expensive. So none of these individuals that have these mental illnesses, if they're at that level of care that they need to be institutionalized, they can't contribute financially. Yeah. So it's 100% reliant on the Medicaid system. And so without funding for it, it'll never happen.
I'm willing to bet if you ever had a fiscally smart governor or federal system who could actually find those policies and crap that we're donating to and spending money on, we could actually probably fund.
Yeah.
Where current,
Yeah. Well,
maybe if we didn't send $49 billion to Ukraine, we could actually fund something. I mean, there's all kinds of money that we're just, pissing up a rope with sometimes.
Well, even from what I saw with Google and Amazon, they're trying to build communities because for homelessness to try to help because when they went into those cities, the pricing for housing went up so dramatically that they're like, we got to do something about it because we're displacing people. So they're building more communities so that people can afford to live.
Yeah, but the problem is, though, is you're all of a sudden looping just because you have someone who doesn't have a house, you're looping that can't afford it.
Right.
The working poor, all of a sudden you're looping them into someone who has been kicked out of their family's house because they have they're schizophrenic.
Right.
All of a sudden you're all the same.
Right. No, and I get that. I'm just saying, private companies are at least.
No, I like
the.
Yeah, no. Yeah. One of them just opened up the other day, I think in Denver, I believe, for homeless vets. I thought that was pretty cool. It was a tiny village thing.
Oh, nice.
But I don't know what the answer is. I don't pretend to know what the answer. but I could see it every day in the community where we're at.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart because, just how I will throw them an occasional dollar. That's basically how our system works right now. And we'll throw you an occasional dollar just to keep you happy, but that's really not the real remedy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know I could do more, but I almost would have to force them to go with me so I could actually change their life, type thing. So I don't know what the answer is, but I just hate the population of a state or the country falling victim to voting promises by either party to fix a system they know they can't fix. They have no answer. They won't show you their plan until you vote for them. And then, of course, 3, 4, or 5 years later, when they're up for re-election, you must vote me again to maybe I can get it past this time. I just hate this whole shell game that we play every year.
Yeah, and it's all about the funding because there's lots of candidates that could get up there and give, a great idea how to solve this, how to build communities, how to do. But unless there's funding for it and the support of the people to pay through tax dollars for it, it'll never happen.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that mental health, we only hear about it when there's a shooting, and then all of a sudden, it's a mental health issue, and then that kind of goes away. And then from the majority of the public, it's not an issue anymore because it's gone away in the news, and then until the next one. And that's what we keep going to. But the dialogue needs to continue, not just shooting-wise, but just all over. Like, there has to be more dialogue about mental health in the media.
Also, mental health is silent. You can't see it.
Right.
Like, someone has cancer. When I had cancer, you could tell. I was bald, like I was about to die. You could tell. You can't tell when someone has been ill.
And going back to the shooting thing, so I have really strong opinions about this whole thing. Kurt always has to listen to me about this. So let's be real here. Like, we're all very logical people with rational thought process, right?
Usually.
Okay.
It depends who's asking.
Now,
how much have we
some of us around this table carry guns, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. But you still have a level of rational thought that you are not going to go get pissed off at Popeyes.
Right.
Ooh, I don't know. That might draw the line
there.
And go shoot the place up.
Right.
All right? So I want to make something really clear of my opinion on this.
Sure.
Any individual who takes a gun and shoots up a school or shoots up a business or, a concert venue,
right,
they are mentally ill. The definition of mental illness is that your brain has lost its rational function. You are not thinking in a way that is rational.
Right.
It is not rational to go shoot people.
No.
This is a mental illness issue. And now, where it originates from, meaning is it a genetic mental illness? Is it a trauma-based mental illness? What caused all this to happen to that individual? There's a lot of factors there, but let's call it what it is. Yeah. And the other thing that irks me is on the news or even some of these larger organizations, MHA, NAMI, I'm calling you out, with the stigma campaigns. They will get on a platform and say, most individuals with serious mental illness are not violent, and they are more apt to be victims than they are perpetrators. I call BS. Come live with a schizophrenic or a kiddo that has reactive attachment disorder, which is extreme trauma from childhood, and you tell me they're not violent.
Yeah.
Come spend a day in my world.
I think they're all victims, but they can
their reactions.
Yeah, they can turn predatory also in a reaction sense of that. Yeah. So I don't believe the whole victim mentality is like everyone's a victim. They're not violent. Nah, that's not necessarily the case.
If you let your guard, when you're working with this population, if you let your guard down for a minute, you're going to get burnt.
Speaking of the shooters, though, and I doubt we'll flesh this out anytime in the future with this topic of shooting and mental illness. You can't determine a mental break. There's a movie called Man on Fire with Kirk Douglas where one day he just had enough and that's it.
Yep.
You can't predict it.
You can't.
So how would you describe someone who's like a parent who goes after a referee at a kid's basketball game?
I call that a Thursday night.
Looks like
so again,
unbalanced something, right?
So I would say that person has. See, what I try not to categorize it as being mental illness or mental health. And let's look at it as the brain, right? Sure. The brain's an organ. If your brain is not functioning properly, you're not thinking rationally. And so there's a lot of factors that go into why your brain may not be functioning rationally. But yeah, if you're the parent that you get so upset at a basketball game that you feel the need to get up out of your seat and go attack somebody verbally or physically, you are not rational.
Yeah.
And that needs to be addressed. And when you go back into all these school shootings, there was one today, wasn't there? You told me in California. When you go back and you talk to the family members, the friends of these individuals, the story's all the same. We knew something was up. The teachers will tell you, we knew something was up. We just didn't know what to do. We tried to get him help. We didn't have access to care. Yeah, he used to take, Ritalin as a kid. It's there.
Yeah, and like teachers aren't allowed to say anything.
Right.
Even hint at diagnoses, even if they've seen things in the past. They're not allowed to really go, you might want to look into this. Like, there's no, it's really faux pas or illegal for them.
It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. A teacher can't do that.
But they're in those situations.
But they can debt shame a kid because they have a $10 balance, a minus balance in their lunch bank account. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. I mean, if we as a society,
they can't make any kind of medical judgment.
Not
at all.
judgment,
or just they can't say, hey, I think, your child might be on the spectrum.
What about
with autism or something?
What about if they think the kid is being traumatized at home? Yeah, teachers can't make a quote unquote medical diagnosis. I think this kid's on the spectrum. Can they report perceived trauma? Sally was.
If they see bruises and things like that, like physical issues, they can report that. But if there's they're acting funny or they're if the behavior changes, so maybe a little girl is not as outgoing as she was the day before, she's just more reserved or something like that. There's not a lot they can do.
Really?
Trying to talk to the counselor.
So a teacher can report a kid for gnawing off their sandwich and hold it up like a pistol, but they can't report.
So here's there's all these channels. Oh my gosh, I think I did 3 of these cases today. All these channels that teachers have to go through, and there's documents that have to be signed before they can. So release of information. Like a teacher cannot come to me and say, hey, I've got a kiddo, da-da-da-da, unless the parent signs a release of information that teacher can communicate with me. Same vice versa. I can't tell a teacher anything unless we get that form signed. So I spend a lot of time doing that. It's fine. We can get through that. But within the school, if a teacher is suspecting that there's some issues, like in Cabarrus County Schools, we have multi-teams, tiered, I can't remember, MTSS. Yes. This process that they have to go through with all this documentation of justifying before they can even really go to, before they even get to the parent. There's 2, tier 1 is within the school. They have to check all their boxes, and then if those interventions aren't working, then they can talk to the parent. And I'm thinking, no, you call parent day 1.
Yep.
But now some teachers will, because they're just I'm a parent myself, I'm not holding up. But there are some teachers that will go through that checklist and make sure, and by this time, 2-3 months.
Those are the same teachers that won't let kids invite other kids to birthday parties in their classroom.
Yeah. The school system has become more about protecting their jobs than it has about caring for kids. There's very few people left in the school systems that are there because of their intense love for wanting to educate youth. A lot of them care more about their job and protecting what they've got.
And I'll say that 100% for the foster care system as well, that the judges are and the court system is more concerned about their butts, the mother's butts, and not literally, but covering, make sure the mother doesn't sue.
Right.
And then the children. The children are the last on the docket for them. Mm-hmm. They could care less.
Yeah. They'll move children around 3-4 different placements just in trying to make their T's crossed and their I's dotted, so that, exactly what you said, so they don't end up getting sued. And every single time you place a child with a different placement, that trauma is so significant. And that's what reactive attachment disorder really is. It happens when kids, in early childhood have been exposed to trauma, abuse, neglect, all different things, and then you throw placement change, and they're attaching to people, then they're disengaging from attachments, and they don't know who to trust anymore, and then their brains just shut down, and you can't turn them back on.
Yeah,
they lose connections with human beings.
Yep.
And once that happens, reactive attachment disorder is actually probably the worst brain illness disorder there is, because when you've got schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, manic depressive diagnosis, there's medications that can help bring that into balance, and therapies that you can work with. Reactive attachment disorder creates those pathways that we talked about, and they really do not care about people.
Yeah.
They become survivalists, and they do anything to just protect. I want what I want. I want it now. I don't care. I'm going to get it, and I will kill or hurt anyone that gets in my way. That's
like almost going back to a primal nature.
It is. It's primal. And their brains, there's actually been studies, their brains work in the same way as a reptile brain. They have that fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
Right?
We all have a reptilian core in our brain.
To some degree,
it's a
right.
primordial section of our brain.
Yeah.
I'm a turtle.
But these kids are there all the time.
Yeah.
Like, don't ever come out of that. It changes their metabolism. Their heart rates are always faster because they're always ready to fight or run. It's an incredibly difficult thing. And most kids in foster care, if they're not adopted by the time they're 3 or 4 years old, or placed with at least a consistent foster family, it's all likelihood they're going to have reactive attachment. Kids that are adopted internationally almost always have reactive attachment disorder. And you want to talk about being able to destroy a family in 2 seconds flat. Take a kid with reactive attachment disorder into your home. And that's kind of one more of my soapbox. So I don't know if we're getting close to our ending time, but
nope, I just have one more question, but come on.
Okay. So I'm going to reach out to the faith-based community in this one.
Oh boy.
So
pull up your bootstraps, church.
This is. And you know what? I mean, we are Amazing Grace Advocacy, and we live by the Lord, and this is what the Lord says to me.
Yep. Come on.
Is we, as Christians, talk about the least of these. And we talk about, all this mission work and all this giving that we as Christians are called to do. But in our own homes and in our own community, how many of us would take a kid with reactive attachment disorder and keep them for a weekend? Keep them for 8 hours. I promise you, probably by 12 hours, you'd be calling somebody and saying, get this kid out of my house. But here in Cabarrus County, just within Amazing Grace, we probably have 16 kids right now with reactive attachment disorder that these families are absolutely being torn apart and devastated. And I'm reaching out to the faith-based community and saying, would you be willing to give a minute to these families? Would you be willing to give that mom 6 hours on a Saturday so that she could take a shower without being worried about her house being set on fire? Could she, could her additional children have a break and spend a day with their parents and not, be concerned that someone's going to get hurt? These families are living in this county, and I can't get help for them. I can't get respite, which is just essentially babysitting. And so that's going to be my 2020 mission, is to reach out to all of our local churches and say, what can you give? What can you do to help? Can you be a mentor? Can you be a big brother, a big sister? Can you do that? Yeah. Because these are the kids that they are going to be tough when they're with you. You're going to have to baby-proof your house for a 14-year-old kid. But we've got to come together as a community and figure out how to get these families through this, because when you sign up to adopt a child, you know that it's not going to be easy. You know there's going to be challenges. But no one tells you about reactive attachment disorder and how hard it is. And I'm sure, foster parents are in the same boat. Even though you signed up for it, these kids are going to be difficult. You still need a break.
Yeah.
You still need a break.
100%. And, Jess mentioned this, is like the Christmas season, everybody comes out of the woodwork to help, the foster kids. But what happens, the other 11 months? Faith community, there's a song, So Will I.
Don't cry, buddy.
That is so true, though, because these families that are raising, whether it be foster or they've adopted, these wounds that happen to these children early on, or even in utero when they're born addicted to substance, they need people to love them, even when they're not lovable.
Yeah.
And the parents raising them just need a breather. Yeah. If you can just catch a breath once in a while, you can recharge and you can handle this because you've got the tools to do it.
Yep.
But when you are pouring from an empty cup, you're no help to anybody.
It's tough. It is. That song I was saying, there's a line that says, I can see your heart 8 billion different ways. Every precious one, a child you died to save. If you gave your life to love them, so will I. Faith community, we got to dig in and love these kids. Whether they're yours or they're not, there's something that you can do that will give them respite, that will give them love, that will show and reach out. And that reaction disorder,
reactive attachment.
I'm going to try that again. If it's just consistent, if you just keep going back and showing them that you love them no matter what they do, every once in a while you get a glimpse. My glimpse this week, I've been saying I love you, buddy, every day for 6 months. I got a thumbs up this week. That's what I got back. It's like thumbs up. All right, cool, man, let's roll. So it's tough. It's tough to break through that. But just keep going. And guys, we know better. Church, we know better. If he died to save them, so
we have a tough time with the church, and that's been. And Gwen is personal family now, and she knows my struggles with the church, and even the church I attend, and just reaching out beyond the four walls to its parishioners, and doing the things that don't look pretty, doing the things that don't get the, hey, we got the camp T-shirt we're going to put on everybody, and we're going to go out and serve. We're going to go out and scoop some sweet mashed potatoes with marshmallows on top of it at a kitchen.
I do like the marshmallows on top.
I do too. But it's the thing that looks good for the Instagram pictures,
right?
When it actually is scraping the manure off of your shoes from the streets and actually getting in there, we don't want to do it.
And I think there's something to the church thinking it's the pastor that's doing it, or even that there is an Instagram moment. I think I know that there's times in this church that we go to, One Life, where we don't get Instagram pictures, and we see God show up in the mundane, the weird. I've seen God show up through you and stories you tell of pulling over on the side of the road and helping people, or I've seen God work in the middle of a DCBC, where we have cigars and bourbon. I see those, but we don't Instagram them. We don't talk about them because what's the point? But I don't hear the stories of us just falling over for helping kids with mental health. It's even churches are like, hey, look, we paid for the guy behind us in Chick-fil-A. Whoop do you freaking do? Like, where is it where we actually get more dirty? Mm-hmm. And I think kids are very dirty, even just the diapers. Like, I totally get that.
Kids are filthy human beings. They're basically they're walking petri dishes in a CDC lab.
Right.
I mean, yeah, they're horrible.
Yeah, I do agree though. The church, let's step up.
Yeah, yep. So that's my plea to anyone listening of where, no matter where you live, these kids are there. Yep. I promise you.
Yeah.
And if you don't know where to volunteer, start with the Department of Social Services and let them know that you'd like to help out with respite for families that are raising difficult children, because not only are our Department of Social Services working with foster families, but they're working with all the families that get reported for Child Protective Services, and not all of them have their children taken away. There's hundreds of reports that they have families that are just struggling.
Yeah.
And most likely somebody in that family's got some kind of brain disorder, and that's why the family is struggling. So that's a good place to start. I can promise you almost in every congregation, the pastor is aware of families that are struggling with mental health within their families.
Yeah.
Just starting there and reaching out, your organizations, your nonprofits in your areas, just let yourself be known that you want to volunteer and help.
Yeah. Any other questions?
No.
Ryan? One question I have, my last one, ADHD versus trauma brain. I think we get a lot of diagnosis for ADHD.
Oh, yeah.
When there's trauma brain and we just don't recognize it.
I think in all the cases I've worked with, I can maybe say 2 kids that stand out to me that are classic ADHD and came, genetically have ADHD, right? Like it runs in their family. Mm-hmm. There's absolutely no trauma. Parents are great. Everything's environmentally sound. The kid just has ADHD. The rest of the hundreds, and I mean hundreds, are trauma brains. Yeah. And what happens is it shows up because the kids are not regulating in school, right? They're impulsive. They're disruptive. They just don't socially get along with other kids. They're in everybody's, they're bouncing all over the place, all this thing. And so what's the solution to it? Drug them so that they calm down. Because that's all ADHD medications really do, is they slow the brain down. And so we have all these kids with trauma histories on ADHD medications. And what does that lead to? Substance use disorder. Because these ADHD medications, especially ones like Adderall, they're methamphetamines. So we're training these kids' brains, right, that they can't function unless they get that fix.
It's because it rewires the neuropathic.
Yep.
Or neuropathways.
And they're not developing any kind of coping skills, coping mechanisms to deal with those feelings of anxiety, impulsivity that are driving their behaviors. It's just much easier to go to that pediatrician and write a script for Adderall, Vyvanse, all these things. And, and what are we looking at now in our generation? All of our 20-somethings and down into the high schools now are self-medicating. Probably, I would love to see a study, and I'm not aware of anyone doing it, but I wish someone would. So Harvard, if you're listening.
You literally think
They're
somebody
totally listening.
is listening from Harvard.
Okay, here's the thing.
Optimism.
So I have a couple friends at Harvard.
Okay.
I'm going to tell them they need to listen to
that would be fantastic.
Yes.
So how many
they're going to get stupider listening?
These diagnosed or undiagnosed. How much of it you think is like an actual issue versus our school systems don't know how to handle an 8 or 9 year old boy.
Oh, I think it's majority.
And they're built into like you sit still and have to hold yourself together for 6 hours. You get a 15-minute go crazy minute, sort of, and then you come home. I mean, the system is not built for kids. You know, there's all this pressure on testing, and you have to learn all this stuff. And you have to be perfect the whole time, and maybe that causes trauma. I don't know, but
it does. It can make kids really hate school.
Yeah,
I mean that's a given.
Check.
But most of these kids shouldn't be put on any kind of ADHD medications. They shouldn't even be considered for it until at least 3rd grade. And I've got 5-year-olds on this stuff.
I wonder.
5.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if being on this ADHD medication, Ritalin, forms of methamphetamines, can cause self-induced trauma, which also, therefore, backs it up. Here's my point. World War II, methamphetamines were widely used in a drug called Pervitin. This was given to Nazi soldiers. That's what kept them up so late. That's what made the SS soldiers feel very invincible. It's also been linked to the lack of empathy on concentration camp soldiers and being able to do the horrific acts that they were ordered to do and they participated in. So I wonder if there's something in there that shuts off with like a methamphetamine, Ritalin, whatever, maybe that shuts off the empathy mechanism, which therefore self-induces trauma back to them.
So there's already been evidence that Adderall, which is one of the most commonly prescribed ADHD medications.
Like candy.
Yeah, and Adderall is a methamphetamine. Like, I don't care how anybody wants to put a spin on it, that's what it is. Kids that take Adderall are more likely to have aggression and lack of empathy than other ADHD medications. So to me, it's like, this should be pulled off the market. And Adderall is one of the most abused drugs on the black market. Like in high schools, kids are getting prescriptions for Adderall and selling it. They go for, they make pretty good money off Adderall sales.
Note to self.
Yep. So why we have this on the market is beyond me.
Well, because now we have a history of use for it. I mean, there's war or Vietnam veterans that were prescribed Ritalin or Adderall specifically. That's such a tough word to say. Specifically to get through those war years. I mean, so that now the generation has been on Adderall now for 40 years. I mean, think about how many of those people how many prescriptions have been written for Adderall that have been continued use for this long to take it off the market without an ample substitute, and that substitute would probably be just as bad in the next 40 years. We keep hearing about the opioid epidemic. I mean, I think the hidden one is the Adderall or Ritalin. I
think it's the gateway. I'll be honest with you, because I just see this dependency of young kids that they start believing that they can't function without their ADHD medications.
Yes, like it says, habitual dependency. Yeah.
Yep.
So another $1 million idea. I'm not suggesting we do this, but ADHD mint chocolate chip vapes.
Well,
we did that.
I think they just signed a law today to ban flavored vapes. So you're about
a
year behind on that.
Darn it.
Yeah.
Well, scratch that off the list. We won't do that one.
Yeah. Mints are gone, I think, right?
Yeah.
Is that what that heard?
That's like the number one seller.
Yeah.
Mint
chocolate chip.
Mint chocolate chip. Really?
Yeah.
Never guessed that.
Mint Jewels, I think, are now banned.
Yeah. All right.
Just really want that so fresh feeling in your mouth and lungs and nasal passages. It's gone.
Just put some Gold Bond in there. You'll be all right.
But hey, cigarettes are still legal.
There you go.
I mean,
those never hurt anybody.
It's pretty bad when you would prefer
right
someone to smoke a cigarette over a vape.
Yeah.
Well, I think we know who prefers. They smoke cigarettes over vaping because I'm sure some industries have taken a tumble.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is.
Gwen, if somebody needs to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
So the easiest way is through probably the internet, email, and through our website. If they just Google Amazing Grace Advocacy, it'll pop up. Our website is amazinggraceadvocacy.org. There's a form on there that you can say contact us, and that will come to us through an email. I say that because myself and my staff are with families from sun up to sundown, And we find it very difficult to take phone calls because we want to give every family that individualized attention while we're with them. So email is usually our best way, and I'm up at 6 a.m. every morning answering emails from 6 to 8, and then I see families at 9. So when I say sun up to sundown, I'm not kidding.
You ain't joking.
Yeah.
Goodness. The time change hasn't changed for you, has it?
No.
No. It just makes it worse.
Yeah.
I can't tell you, again, how much you mean to the show, how much you mean to our family. My life will never be the same because of you, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks or thanks?
No, it's a straight thing. Here's the thing, and I said this off air, is at 4 a.m, like when I'm like, I just want to go back to sleep. But then, like, at 7, when I see her smile, I'm like, oh, it's all over. Yeah. It's worth it.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I will come give you respite at 4 a.m. tomorrow.
Lord have mercy.
I've got to be out of there.
Do you
by
have a
8.
key? Because if you have to wake him up to come in and give him respite, he might be upset with that.
I'll just do what our pastor does. Just break his window.
But I'm going to give you some ounce of bad news.
Okay.
You will go through phases where you'll get a little more sleep. Okay. Like there's some golden elementary school age years.
Okay.
But then once middle school starts, it starts going downhill again because they want to stay up late.
Yeah.
And high school and beyond, you're screwed. Like you lose that. You're right back at no sleep because...
Look, if it wasn't for my high school Adderall dealer, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
That's so funny. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll be all here 10 years from now going, oh, what did we do? No, I'm just kidding. Guys, thanks again for tuning into the show.
Yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in as always. You can find us on the website at southernfriedphilosophy.com. We do have our playable links there. You can also find us on our Facebook page at Southern Fried Philosophy. I usually like to post stupid memes and then get yelled at by Biggin.
I did that one time.
Okay, maybe
twice.
One time. Well, it hurt me so deep.
It did.
Trauma. Wherever you listen to your podcast at, please go look Southern Fried Philosophy. Just go there, subscribe, give us a like, a rating, review, and please don't forget, if you're not an organ donor, make someone's holiday season. Sign up to be an organ donor. And that way, just in case you're not around, you can make someone else's life live on. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's actually easier than ever. I found this out this week. If you're on an iPhone, the health app.
Oh, yeah.
You can scroll up, and there's a link right on your phone.
Oh, wow.
Become a donor.
Don't become a donor right now.
Wow.
On Android, you'll become a donor in a foreign country.
I'm okay with
that. I don't know.
Did you do it? Well. All right.
I need to check my driver's license. I might already be one. I don't remember.
There you go. Guys, thank you again for tuning in. And as always, keep looking up. You're listening to the SFP Radio Network.